Yes, it's John G. Sutton here, and this is Tales from the Jails. Yes, folks, today I'm going to talk about idiotic officers, which is something that's close to my heart because I met them. I'll start off with a strange story. This is from Strangeways. Strange stories from Strangeways. There you go. Anyway, this is from Strangeways, round about 1982, and I was working on the hospital clinic on the end of A1 landing with another officer, and our duty was to administer the medications prescribed by the doctor. So if you were an inmate and you've been prescribed, I don't know, some antibiotics or whatever, then on the first thing on the morning when you were unlocked, you'd come down to A1 and collect your medication, and we had it all set out with the names, and as they got the medication, tick that off, yeah. So they all got the medication, and also if people were suffering, say they had I don't know, constipation or something like that, they come down and we give them some medication for that. And if you've got suffering from headaches, well, this particular day I was on A1 landing, and this rather dim-witted inmate came down. I mean, we're not all perfect, and asked for. Said I've got a headache, boss. So the officer, the hospital officer that I was with, said, right, put your head through the hatch. We had a serving hatch, you know, yeah, he put his head through the hatch. He got an aspirin. This officer got an aspirin, put it on a sticking plaster, and stuck it to his head. Said, now wear that all day. Come back and see me this evening. So this poor inmate went off with a sticking plaster holding an aspirin to his head. He thought that was hilarious. I mean, I thought it was an insult to the poor chap. I mean, he might not have been the brightest of lights, but that is an abuse of authority. But if they did that, I immortalised it in a song that I wrote. You can go onto YouTube, where you are now. Yeah, go onto YouTube and type in "Strangeways Screw" by Two Hat John. That's my comedy group, by the way. Figure two, Hat John, all one word. Strangeways Screw, Two Hat John. You can have a listen to that. Yeah, seriously, it's on there on YouTube. My comedy group, Two Hat John with the clap. Anyway, so this particular officer was something of a character, you know. He was a big fella, you know, about 6'3", something like that, 6'2", about 17 stone, huge fella. And he was mates with somebody who worked in the kitchen, yeah, in the kitchens cooking, you know. So used to send him stuff through, and this morning, this particular day, the kitchen staff brought through the kitchen red bands. It's not the officers, the red bands brought through the meals for all the landing, and among that's the hospital landing A1, and they had cells on A2 as well. So that right at the other end. So they brought these through, yeah. And the officer that was with me said, right, that's mine. And they had a tray. I think it was 16 inmates, and there were 16 sausages on this tray, you know. And he went out and he ate. This is honest truth. He ate 16 sausages, all the lot. So there were no no sausages at all for the prisoners on A1 landing on the hospital. He'd eaten them, 16 sausages. I mean, I could probably manage one or two, maybe, but I managed 16. Anyway, he ate the 16 sausages, and he thought they'd been sent for him, you see, but they'd not. It was the breakfast for the inmates on the hospital landing, A1 and A2 hospital landing. So that was just one incidence of what I'd call fairly idiotic behaviour. Another incidence of what I believe to be fairly stupid behaviour was I lived on a place called at the top of Cheetham Hill, off Queen's Drive. Yeah, Cheetham Hill, Queen's Drive. Yeah, go and have a look. It's on Google Maps. You'll see it. And there were quarters there that belonged to the staff, and the officers lived in them. And I lived on a road called Holborn Drive, which was immediately off Queen's Road. Yeah, so near the bus depot. I don't know if it's still there. We're going back 40 odd years now. 40 plus years. Anyway, it would be about 11:30 at night, something like that. And I heard this just around that bloody police. What's the police doing here? So I looked out the window, and there was two police vans and a load of policemen in the house opposite. And in the house opposite, there was this giant jailer who was he was an Irishman, but he was serving in the British prison service. He was probably from Northern Ireland, and he was absolutely enormous. This guy, his big barrel chest, about 6 foot, but square, 6 foot square, you know. And the police grabbed him. I could see the police fighting with him. Apparently, what this man had done, he was of a habit of slapping his wife around, and she'd had enough and called the police. You know, they'd been out a few times. Apparently, I didn't know this, but we lived opposite, and the police were dragging him out, and they'd handcuffed this guy. And see, I've got paint on my hand. They'd handcuffed him, yeah. So they got him out the house. 3 or 4 of these policemen, big policemen, got him out the house, and they were trying to get him in the back of the van because they were arresting him, you know, for assaulting his wife. And this is no joke. This guy, he got the handcuffs like that, went, and snapped the handcuffs. I tell you, he was a big brute of a guy. I don't know what they did to him, but they did something to him, and he was bundled into the back of the van, and the police had to get in the back of the van with him, because otherwise he would have just smashed the van, punched his way through the door probably. Anyway, they drove him off, and he was never seen at the jail again. He was, I think he was admitted to some psychiatric unit. He was obviously out of his head on alcohol, you know. That's just one idiotic incident. Another one. Now listen to this. Believe this or not, one of the staff at Strangeways, he was a gambling man, you know, and he gambled all his money. He was in debt up to here, you know. He just hadn't got any more money at all. And it came time, he'd accrued all his holidays, yeah, because you get annual leave, 28 days I think it was, including bank holidays and what have you. So anyway, what happened was, he got towards the end of the year, the actual year, and he hadn't taken his holidays. So they called him in and said, right, you're going to have a week's holiday now. You're going to have to take your holidays. You can't carry them over, you know. So he still didn't got any money, you know. So he told his wife, this is God's honest truth, he told his wife he was working, yeah, and although he was on his holidays, because he had to take his leave, he ain't got no money to go anywhere. So he arrived every morning as per usual, but he didn't go into the prison. He spent 7 days of his annual leave in the officers' mess, you know, where they served all the food, and he's just sat there reading books and watching television. The officers, the Strangeways officers' mess was on Bury New Road, off Bury New Road. You see the jail, if you look at the big jail, yeah, right in front of you from Bury New Road, Southall Street's there, the jail's there, and the officers' mess was at the end of the jail, on the front there, facing Bury New Road. And he spent a week there. I mean, what kind of a knobhead would do that? In uniform. He went in uniform, spent his entire week's holiday in uniform, sat in the officers' mess, where he had his breakfast, lunch, and seriously, mad. Idiot. You would agree? All in favour? Idiot. Yeah. Now, it wasn't just that. I wouldn't eat in that place. Do you know why? I wouldn't eat there. I didn't eat there, never. It was run mainly by prisoners. Prisoners from Strangeways were taken out. Fat Fred was the escorting officer, and they were taken out from the prison, and they worked in the officers' mess, keeping it clean, and not only just keeping it clean and tidy, but preparing the food. So the cooking was not done by civilian staff. It wasn't done by a serving prison officer who was a cook and baker or whatever. No, it was done by prisoners. And I'm a friendly guy, me, you know. I used to talk to these prisoners, you know, as you would. You know, but I wouldn't eat there. And one of them actually said to me, you know, when they got to know me a little bit, because I have a bit of a joke with them, you know, human beings, you know, just people, you know. People don't forget that. These aren't prisoners. First of all, they're human beings, yeah. So I was talking to one of them. I said, "Come on," I said, "tell me the truth." I said, what are you doing?" He said, "Every Friday," he said, "there's fish." He said, "and the staff love this fish." He said, "but what we do is when it comes in the morning, when we get the fish fresh," he said, "we piss all over it and and soak the the fish in piss." He said, "and we're absolutely rolling about laughing as the officers come in at dinner time and eat this for the lunch, especially the governor." Seriously, I mean, what idiot allowed prisoners to prepare the food for the prison officers? Yeah, imagine that. I tell you, you wouldn't eat there, would you? You knew. If you got any sense, you'd absolutely know that they were going to defile the meals. And they did. Well, they didn't tell me about anything else that they'd done to the food. Just that on Fridays they pissed all over the fish. Tales from the jails.